the leaderboard at Wentworth last week at about 2 p.m. on Sunday was looking pretty grim if you were in a position that I hold. And that certainly gave me a bit of extra motivation, and probably a few of the other guys on the leaderboard to get past that 14 under mark. But yeah, you know, it's a weird time in golf, and you know, hopefully over the next couple of years we can resolve it in some sort of way.
It seems obvious, but the fact that none of the LIV guys, well-known guys, are here this week, none of them maybe should even expect to play next year. Obviously, maybe they'll come in May. I don't know.
Well, I can't speak on behalf of them if they will come in May. I'm not sure what LIV's schedule looks like, if there's a tournament on that week or where in the world that they're playing. But yeah, if I've said this once, I've said it 100 times. I don't think any of those guys should be on the Ryder Cup team.
Canada, Atlanta, Wentworth, Rome, it doesn't matter. Rory McIlroy is continuing to carry the torch for professional golf, PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and continues to play great golf besides.
And he's not exactly speaking in a vacuum here either, because it became kind of clear at Wentworth last week with the animosity that existed between so many LIV players in the field and the rank and file of the DP World Tour that it's a commonly held position. And since the Ryder Cup it's the profit maker, it is the cash generator for the European circuit. And it's also considered, you know, one of the great honours in golf to be part of that team over there. That culture has always existed around the Ryder Cup going back over certainly the last 40 plus years. So the idea that the guys who have left that tour for LIV would be included would be a resoundingly unpopular opinion in most corners of the DP World Tour now. So Rory's opinion, and we just heard Shane Lowry say something similar. Obviously, the decision belongs to the tour and to an extent the captain, Luke Donald, but there would not be a great deal of support for that among the players.
Most players, you said, not universal, but then I keep hearing John Rahm's voice saying, well, what about Sergio? 28.5 points all time. A lot of that money generated for Ryder Cup Europe was because of the energy and the play of the 42-year-old Spaniard. Do we need to get Rory and Rahm on the same page in this conversation? Because, yes, you can talk about the Hogarth twins and Bobby Mack, but Sergio Garcia has been a lion for this event in an era where the U.S. clearly is closing the gap. I think in the Ryder Cup, any lack of cohesion potentially could be fatal for Team Europe in Rome next year.
So you give Sergio a spot on the Ryder Cup team and he plays Thursday and goes home on Friday. You know, it's Sergio's future with the Ryder Cup team is over. His future even, or respect for him among his peers on the European Tour is over after what he did last week. And John Rahm's comments about Sergio, that he ought to be a part of the Ryder Cup team, predated what Sergio did last week, because it was one of John Rahm's best friends, Alfredo Garcia Heredia, who was #1 on the alternate list, who didn't get in while Sergio was busy clearing off back to Texas to go to a football game without giving tournament organisers the courtesy of an explanation for why he withdrew. So of all of the players who've got great lionised records in the Ryder Cup over the last 20-odd years, there are several of them whose standing has just dipped so much among their peers that I just don't see them ever redeeming it. And Sergio is by a mile at the top of that list.
Do you see the European Ryder Cup team as vulnerable in this era? I'll ask you the same question I asked Shane, with the institutional knowledge lost, with these guys that have been there, done that, been in those meetings, been on so many winning teams, and I know they're older. Poulter, Westwood, Garcia, Keimer. You're getting rid of hundreds of years of experience when you combine those players.
True, but none of them are going to hit a shot, very likely, going forward. And there's plenty of experience that can also step in as captains. Right now, I would argue the European Ryder Cup team has, to our earlier conversation, they have these pillars they can build around, the Rorys, the Rahms, Hovland, Lowry, Fitzpatrick. When you look at the next tier of guys, it's not exactly weaklings you have in there either. You've got a Tommy Fleetwood, you've got a Tyrrell Hatton, both top 30 in the world. And then you move into the area where you're looking for the next generation of talent to come from. And frequently in Ryder Cups over the years, we've seen that next generation of talent be the decisive one. Do you remember when Philip Price beat Phil Mickelson at the Ryder Cup? Frequently, it's the lesser-known players who've stood up, surprisingly, in some cases in the Ryder Cup for Europe. So I think it's easy to overplay how weak the team might be. They're definitely on the borderline of being caught between generations of players. It's not as bad as it would seem on paper. And what they have going for them is kind of what we're seeing in evidence this week. This is the second straight year the Italian Open has been played at the Marco Simone course where the Ryder Cup is. That's not an accident. When the Ryder Cup was last in Europe, 2018, the Golf National had hosted the French Open 27 times. Go back to 2014, the previous one in Europe, Glen Eagles, very familiar course for European tour venues as well. And it goes on, you know, all the way back to Celtic Manor, the K Club, the Belfry. You can keep going back into the mists of time. Europe sets up venues for regular tour events, so their guys are familiar with it. There are plenty of people who are likely to be part of the European Ryder Cup team, led by Rory McIlroy, who are playing there this week. Not a single American likely candidate for the Ryder Cup is there.
Ruh-roh, potentially, if you're a fan of the American Ryder Cup. I tell you what, every time I see and listen to Rory McIlroy, I think he's going to tire of this line of questioning. He continues to thrive under these questions, and in some ways, he's motivated by it.
Yes, it's definitely given him a little edge. I would have thought, and I've had this conversation with people even on the show here, that I thought it could be a distraction for him. If anything, it seems to give him a focus that maybe he didn't have for a little while there.